Here we will learn how to create panels and how to connect them. We can create a panel by either pressing F2 or by clicking on Add Panel. The basic idea is that panels have an in and out part. Whatever panel we connect to in will be feeding objects and code into that panel, and whatever we connect to out will consume the objects generated by it. Let's see how this works with more detail. The first button can be used to indicate if the panel is a Python or R panel. The next three blue buttons are used to execute each panel. We will explain how to use each one of these three later. The button next to them is used to show a bigger code editor. This code editor will also do syntax highlighting. So here we will create a simple script in Python. We just create a simple list. And we create two extra panels. In order to connect them, we will use two connectors. I will connect both to the out of the first panel and to the in of both other panels. This means that all the objects that are created in the first panel will be available for both panels. In my case, the list I created will be available to both panels. Note that once the curve is connected, the color changes from white to blue. Also note that if I do a right click on it, I can edit the shape of the curve and remove it by clicking on the red cross. There is no practical utility in changing the shape of the curve other than for aesthetic purposes. For each panel, I added a specific code. For the first one, I just added a simple print statement to print the second element in the list. For the second panel, I am printing the third element in the list. Let's now see how to run this. If we click on the first caret, it will run just that panel. In my case, this runs and it doesn't do much. Note that the start time and end time appears for each panel. Also look at the bottom right. A new process was added. You can see it is a Python code involving one panel and it finished without any errors. The other way of running this is to run up to this point. In this case, it won't change anything at all, since there are no inputs connected to it. The final option, and the most interesting one, is to run everything that receives this panel as an input. Check this out. After clicking on it, I generate two processes that are listed below on the right. Each one of them involves two panels. Once this finishes, you can see the execution time for each one. What happens if we run using the panel on the lower right? If we run using just this one, it throws an error because the list is not available for that panel. This is equivalent to thinking that the panel is not connected to anything. What happens if we run using the Run Everything Below button? In that case, it throws an error again because the list defined previously is not available. And finally, if we run up to here, it works. The reason is that everything that is connected to the in is being executed before the panel runs, and hence it will be available. The I button here can be used to hide the panel. So if we go up, for example, and request to run everything below, it will omit running anything involving that hidden panel. We can freeze the outputs of the Python or R code. Let's see, for example, here. I will freeze the output and change the code to print the fourth element instead. If we rerun this, obviously this generates a new output that we can easily compare against what we had before. This is very useful when comparing matrices or lists or any output that you want. You can just freeze it and compare it instead of needing to copy it and pasting it on Notepad, for example, and comparing the outputs there. We can remove the panel by clicking on the red cross. As we saw, we can connect multiple outputs to a panel. What I will show you now is how to connect multiple inputs. Let's create three panels in Python. So for each one of these panels, I will insert a Pandas code to generate a data frame. So for the first panel, I will do data1 equals a data frame that I will create that will have a person ID key and it will have the age. For the second panel, I will have a data2 which will be a data frame containing the same person ID and then three names. And for the third panel, I will have a Pandas code that will create a data frame containing the person ID and the sex. What I will do now is to add the connections to connect these three panels to a fourth panel that I will put here on the lower part of my screen. after I connect them, you can see that here we have a new thing. We have a number displayed next to each one of these three curves. This is indicating the order of execution that will happen when everything is fed into this panel. So for practical purposes, think that this is just one script that has the panel corresponding to the one first, then the panel that has the two below it, then the panel that has the three below it, and then at the bottom of that script, we have the fourth panel that's there on the bottom part. So now what do we want to do here? Here we want to, for example, merge the three data frames. So this is what I will do now. It will be a simple pandas.merge. And here I have my results. Now, if you pay attention, you will see that here we have next to each panel, we have a data frame that has been created. This is a very useful feature in Python that allows us to see all the data frames that were generated inside a panel or modified inside a panel. And it allows me to see how the different data frames change through my script. You can see that each one of these data frames has a small icon there, a white icon. So if you click on that, that will open Microsoft Excel with the data frame already loaded into a sheet.